all have two footprints. One is based on the size of our shoes, and the other is measured by the amount of carbon emissions we cause, whether we know it or not. Welcome to this special edition of Eco Africa, your Pan-African Environment Show. This week, we will be focusing on sustainable living. But before we get started, let's welcome my charming colleague in Kampala. Hi there, Sandra.
Hi, Niyata. Hello, everybody. As you've just heard on today's program, we want to take a closer look at just how much the idea of sustainable living is catching on here in Africa and how much more we can all do. Yes, you and I, to make this a better world. I am Sandra Twinobdio, and here's what is coming up shortly. In Senegal, an initiative in the capital, Dakar, is encouraging residents to make their districts greener. We also meet Adenike Akinsamolu in Lagos, Nigeria, to talk about her passion for sustainable living. And finally, in Ghana, we find out how to get young people all fired up about sustainable waste disposal. We start the show in neighboring Kenya as grazing land becomes even scarcer there. More and more Maasai people are looking for alternatives to their semi-nomadic way of life, herding cows, goats, and sheep. A few have now started to keep bees. They don't need lots of land for that, and they earn more money as well.
Loita Forest is a great place for wild bees to live. There are no fields or pesticides, and very few people. The members of Maasai people who do live in the area traditionally collect wild honey in the forest. It's a laborious and dangerous activity. But last year, Babakone and 14 other men went into the beekeeping business, setting up 10 hives in the forest. They don't take up much space, and they are environmentally friendly.
A project like this, when we sell our honey, we get revenue, we get money, and it's an income-generating activity, and this helps to uplift our standard of life. Like now, we have quite a number of young men here around who are married. Their kids are now going to school, and they are getting money through the sale of our honey.
It has become very hard to make a living the traditional way as semi-nomadic pastoralists. Some Maasai men still have as many as 1,000 head of cattle each. But nowadays, they are the exception. More and more are looking for other ways to make a living. A major reason is frequent periods of drought. That means dried out pasture land and less for the cattle to eat and drink. Another reason is that the land where they graze their herds is shrinking. It also has to be shared with wild animals. Patrick Papatiti has been observing these developments for years now. He is himself a Maasai and a local community official and has close ties to the people living here. Most still observe centuries-old traditions, but they are being forced to embrace change in order to survive.
Biggest challenge is the loss of land. Loss of land is going to be subdivided. That will reduce the number of livestock which we rely on, because that is the only thing that the land can support, very few. Number two is the climate change. Rains are not predictable. You cannot plan, you cannot invest, because the future is not clear for us. So, climate change and land subdivision.
A couple of 100 kilometers to the northeast in Nairobi is African Beekeepers, Kenya's only commercial company devoted to the development of the beekeeping and honey industry. Most of the 20 employees make hives for sale to beekeepers. Ernest Simeoni runs the firm. He is keen to see honey production in Kenya grow. Currently, 80% of the honey consumed in the country is imported from Tanzania, but it will take time to build up a network of suppliers and marketing channels. More people will need to go into beekeeping.
My biggest challenge is getting enough honey. We can't get enough honey. That's the challenge, because the market is there. It's not the issue of market. The challenge is getting enough honey.
The small amount of honey so far produced in Loita is not sent to Nairobi. It is sold in nearby villages. But if production is scaled up, and if more beekeeping projects are established, the future of the industry in Kenya might prove to be sweet.
Well, before we get into more examples of sustainable living, we thought it would be good to get a better sense of what sustainable living actually means here in Africa. I think you can help us with that, Niote.
Indeed I can, Sandra. And in order to find out more about what factors play a role in how sustainable our continent's communities can be, I met with Adenike Akinsemolu of the Green Institute here in Lagos.
Finally, we get to see.
How are you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Well done. We've been talking about this matter of sustainable living, and sometimes I wonder how many people are aware or even understand the idea of sustainability in itself.
Sustainability. Let me give you an example. Like I'm a lecturer, and when I was teaching my students, about 250 students in a community college in Ondo town, and I simply asked that question, like, what does it mean to go green? And they were looking at me like, go green, agriculture, what are you talking about? So I just give them a very simple example for my students to say, okay, if you're riding bicycle, what do you think that is? And someone will say, oh, I'm just riding bicycle. But bicycle is for poor people. So I said, no, it's not necessarily a poor man thing. So think about bicycle as a means of you're transporting yourself within your campus. By that, you're doing that, you're keeping fit. You're saving cost of having to take a pep to school, and you're saving money. So it's a win-win situation. And that's when they start thinking. And I told them that going green is a win-win situation. Is adopting the skills, the attributes that is necessary for us to manage our resources so that we can have a habitable planet and achieve shared prosperity.
A lot of people still don't understand what it means to drive with the environment in mind, to live with the environment in mind. They still throw trash everywhere. How do we get the people to buy into it?
Most people in the country are at the bottom of the pyramid. We're still trying to get food, access to clean water, security. When you want to go green, you're looking at you being on the top of the pyramid, self-actualization. So do people have access to clean water? Do we have access to basic needs? It's when you have access to those things that you start thinking of, okay, my environment. So first, we have to tackle the basic needs. Are people okay? And then second, we have to take it from the grassroots, so from elementary school. And that's why my organization, we formed like the Green Kids Club. So it's a club to promote eco-consciousness and social responsibility. They go home and they tell mommy and daddy, and the mother wind around the window and threw. Someone wanted to throw something, and the kids was so like, no, mommy, you can't do that, you can't do that. It's against, you're dirtying you're making the environment not clean. So now those little kids, they will go home and tell their parents. And their parents will have a reflection and say, okay, I want to be the change.
But what do you think? Is it even taking hold?
We need to start looking at the youth. And we need to start giving them incentives. By incentives, I'm not saying you dash them money. But you have to let them see that, okay, you know what? You can be an entrepreneur. You can do stuff. Like, for instance, there are kids that are making plastics, using it for maybe like oil production, using it for building things. They're making money. They can sell those bricks and they make money from it. They're taking off non-biodegradable plastics from the environment. And socially, that money is also helping the local economy.
Nigeria, Africa, and the rest of the world coming together towards sustainability. Do you see any synergy? Or are we having people pouring in instead of coming together?
We're all on this one globe. So whatever happens in China is going to get to Nigeria. And we've just learned from that. So it's a collaborative effort. It's a shared vision. We all have to come together.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Fist bump.
All right.
Thank you. We head to Senegal now to meet some more individuals dedicated to helping the planet. An NGO is greening the suburbs of the capital, Dakar, by planting trees. And more importantly, they've drawn the local residents into the project. That's crucial because it's only once people have discovered the benefits of trees that they can protect and take care of them.
Planting trees is Nadei Sane's favourite activity. She and a group of volunteers want to make this sandy parking lot on the outskirts of Dakar more hospitable.
I'm planting a Samanea saman. It's a shade tree that can grow up to 20 meters high.
A large square full of shady trees. A place to hold celebrations and festivals, somewhere to meet the neighbours. That's the vision. A local NGO has managed to win over the local residents.
People need greenery. And as I see it, those who respect the environment respect themselves. So we must do what we can to combat desertification by planting trees all over the city.
But it's not enough to just plant trees. You need to nurture them as well, day after day.
It's imperative to involve the local population. That's what guarantees the survival of the trees.
The NGO actually took its name from a tree. Nabede is the word for moringa in the Wolof language. It's a versatile tree. Its leaves and fruit can be eaten or used for medicinal purposes.
Scientists have proven that trees bring rain by contributing to evapotranspiration. They trigger precipitation in the clouds. More trees mean more rain. And the more we cut down, the less rain there is. They say deserts advance, but they don't. It's humans that make it possible. So things must change. We must all plant.
Big cities are growing at a breathtaking speed in Senegal. In the past 60 years, the country has lost around half of its forests to urbanization. Tens of thousands of hectares of woodland continue to be destroyed every year.
There's a lot of pressure on urban centers. The population is rising, there's more construction, and fewer green spaces and trees. We're neglecting nature, and that's why desertification is growing worse in our country.
The result: shorter, later, and more irregular wet seasons. In the past, the rain began in June and lasted 3 months. Now things have changed.
Everyone knows that trees are useful, but we don't give ourselves the means to plant them. As a result, with Operation 1 Million Trees and what we're doing in the neighborhood, we are introducing people to the importance of trees, the importance of greenery.
One day, these trees will provide much-needed shade, offering city dwellers respite from the burning sun. Having planted 750,000 trees last year, Nabede is aiming for 1 million in 2020.
One way to gauge how well we're doing when it comes to sustainable living is by looking at the health of wildlife populations. Penguin colonies in South Africa are suffering as a result of overfishing in their habitat to the point of putting them on the path to extinction. Now, there are plans to lure them to other regions where there's plenty of fish for them to hunt. How? Find out in this week's Doing Your Bit.
African penguins inhabit just a few select locations along the coasts of Namibia and South Africa. In recent decades, their population has plummeted due to human interference, ranging from people stealing their eggs to fishing fleets depriving them of their primary source of food. Conservationists have hatched a cunning plan to lure the penguins to better fishing grounds on the coast of South Africa's De Hoop Nature Reserve. Artist Rolf Darling creates decoys out of cement. They're intended to trick the birds into thinking there are already penguins settled here.
When we went to site to install them, we also had to look at the site from many different angles and try and visualize the way penguins see and the way penguins think.
The idea is to entice the endangered birds to start new breeding colonies.
One of the biggest challenges we faced is that no one's ever done this before for the African penguin. So we've had to learn a lot as we go along.
The project organizers hope that penguins will take the plunge and relocate.
And how about you? If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
Those decoys look so real. I wonder how many penguins have been persuaded to settle nearby after seeing them. We probably could all use a little nudging here and again to open our eyes to new opportunities. Isn't that so, Sandra?
Yes, I suppose it is, Nyota, especially when it comes to sustainability. We tend to be creatures of habit, and much of our consumer behavior is based on years of conditioning. But that's where nagging comes in. It is a practice that tries to gently entice consumers to make certain choices, some of which can be good for the planet.
You walk through here and then you have to turn towards this stand. It would be better if you could walk straight to it. It should be at an angle.
Matthias Kriesam is advising the manager of this supermarket in Berlin on ways to draw shoppers' attention to regional organic products.
This is a bit better. You come along here and see it immediately. And now if we just had something like a small poster, something from Brandenburg, from the countryside, perhaps a piece of wood.
The manager is not yet convinced. Matthias still wants to try out various things. Regional organic products also tend to be more eco-friendly. Europeans buy lots of imported goods, bananas, coffee, chocolate, with a much larger CO2 footprint. Many people know that regional products are more sustainable, but that doesn't necessarily lead to a change in the way they shop. Kriesam wants to subtly encourage consumers to think twice. The approach he deploys is known as nudging.
Basically, it's about positioning products in a way that people will be more likely to pick them up.
Kriesam, who studied social sciences, wrote the first academic paper in Germany on nudging. Could it be considered manipulation?
That's a charge that one often hears, but the difference between nudging and manipulation is that nudging is used for positive purposes.
Take meat consumption, for example. In ecological terms, it's much too high. What kind of nudge might make a difference here? Placing vegetarian sausages right next to meaty ones.
People who are already environmentally conscious go looking for products that are organic and regional, and they'll buy them anyway. Nudging is meant to reach those who don't pay attention to those kinds of things.
Now, shoppers here will come face to face with vegetarian alternatives to meat. This is an easy nudge. It's evidently harder to redirect attention to an entire display. Kriesam is looking for some good props.
I'd like it to be larger, more eye-catching, so you get the message at once, organic and regional.
They explore the storeroom, but don't find anything particularly appealing to use as decoration.
What else could we do?
Kriesam heads outdoors to scavenge. Branches will certainly evoke nature, even in a supermarket. He says there are many ways to nudge people to act in a more eco-friendly way.
For example, if you could see how much water you use when you take a shower and how many daily rations of water that amounts to for people affected by drought, it would be pretty shocking. That's an extreme example, but the idea is to grab your attention and make you think about doing things differently.
Kriesam has come up with another way to nudge shoppers at the supermarket to consider eco-friendly products.
4 hours of birdsong.
This doesn't have an immediate effect. The customers just walk by. Kriesam knows all too well that a good nudge is not something you can pull out of thin air.
Well, buying locally grown produce is definitely a good way to reduce the strain on our environment. Here in Africa, outdoor markets have a long-standing tradition. However, an increasing number of factory-made goods are also sold in shops and at markets. And as we know, things like that are usually packaged in plastic.
That's very true, Sandra. And if we don't watch out, a lot of those packaging and other wastes end up in streets and the parks. Getting into the habit of proper waste disposal can't start soon enough. And that's why one Ghanaian school has made environmental studies part of its curriculum.
Sing.
Once a week at Katobabi Junior High School, the kids have a class on environmental studies.
Where we are, our surroundings, when the place is what? Dirty, we need to sweep. If your surroundings are not clean, what happens? Yes?
Fall sick.
Fall sick.
Mosquitoes
will breed. Are these the rabbits?
In the class, the young people learn things like how to properly separate trash for recycling. Their motto, harvest the waste. They discovered that paper and plastic are valuable resources that can be sold for cash. Income from them has helped finance projects and study materials at the school.
Some few parents came and they were like, they are grateful enough because at home, first they used to put all rubbishes at the same place. But they realized, no, since their children came back to come and teach them how to sort, when they do it, because of even the bottles and the sachets, which they can generate income from, they are so much happy.
When the containers are full, they are picked up by the NGO Environment 360. Kodi Aziz set up the initiative. The American intentionally put children at the center of the project.
We've learned that children may not be decision makers, but they're great influencers. So I often give the example, if you've ever been around a child, I think we've all found ourselves doing things just to keep the peace or not to be bothered a little bit longer.
When Aziz came to Ghana 5 years ago, never in her wildest dreams would she have predicted that one day she'd be the head of the country's largest plastic recycling firm. Environment 360 is a mixture of NGO and company. Any income is reinvested in new programs.
Last year we recycled right at 150 or so tons of plastics, and I think about 200 tons of paper. With this, DES essentially was able to support all 43 schools on our recycling program. We employ 13 people at Environment 360, so 10 of those have actually been paid from the recycling services.
This is Tema New Town, a poor settlement outside Accra that has a container port on one side and industrial park on the other. This is where Environment 360 has set up his first recycling center. Throughout the day, a steady stream of people brings material they have gathered in their districts here for sorting and weighing, up to 5 tons of plastic a month. The company pays by kilo, cash in hand.
The interesting goal is make Tema New Town a plastic waste-free community, so that everywhere you go, everybody knows about waste management, segregating, and then they know how to manage or even keep waste, and we wouldn't see plastics just lying down idle.
Esther Nyarko sorts the incoming plastic based on color and quality for further processing. She's been doing the job longer than anyone else here and helped organize the women in the neighborhood into a Waste Pickers Association.
Yes, sometimes the work is disgusting. But Environment 360 provides us with everything we need. We have a shower here, and we can wash our clothes after work. So when we go back to the community, nobody knows how dirty we sometimes are.
Environment 360 will pick up the filled sacks later. Back at Kotobabi Junior High, school is out for the day. Time to gather up the waste that's ended up in the schoolyard in the course of the day. Don't forget to wash your hands afterwards. Nowadays, these kids in Ghana clean up the waste they have produced as a matter of course.
It's really inspiring to see those young people taking responsibility for the environment. It makes the future look a little brighter. We've come to the end of our Eco-Africa special on sustainable living. We hope you enjoy the program. I'm Neo Taigbe. See you again soon, and that goes for you too, Sandra.
So long, Nyota, stay well. And for you, our viewers, please do not forget you can always get the latest from Eco Africa on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. Would also love to hear your thoughts on ideas on how to live more sustainably. So please do send us your thoughts. And of course, be sure to join us once again next week. Until then, it is goodbye from me, Sandra Twinobio, here in Kampala, Uganda.